Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Culture Kita Malaysians Workplace Diversity Forum. I would like to make a few announcements before we begin our event. The event will be recorded and will be live streamed on YouTube. Should you have any questions, please direct your question to the speakers during the Q&A session, which will be held by the end of the forum. A feedback and attendance form link will be shared towards the end of the event in the chat box. Those who fill out the form will receive a certificate of participation. And for the comfort of all, please utilize the comment section appropriately, and we will appreciate nice comments. Thank you for your kind cooperation. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good evening to our lovely audience. We, English Cultural Society or ECLIPSE, would like to humbly welcome you to our Culture Kita Malaysians Workplace Diversity Forum. My name is Aina Yasmin, your moderator for today. Now, to briefly introduce our event, the forum will highlight the cultural differences from various ethnicities which are present in our society, inclusive of each ethnicity's respective norms, beliefs, and values. The forum also aims to call attention to the existence of negative stereotypes in a workplace setting, along with identifying the challenges which come with a multicultural workplace. Last but not least, we aim to identify the potential strategies that can be used to better bridge the communication between individuals of different cultural backgrounds. And for your information, ladies and gentlemen, all attendees tonight will receive an e-certificate of participation. So please stay tuned until the end of today's session and remember to fill in the attendance form which will be provided at the end of the program. Before we jump straight into the forum, I will be introducing three wonderful panels that will be joining us tonight. The first panel is Miss Asyifa Azani, a proud English for Intercultural Communication alumni who proceeds to excel in various fields, some which includes providing support in the talent acquisition People's Team Lazada Malaysia, which is based in Malaysia and Singapore, along with fulfilling many roles while being a part of Nestle for practical training. Miss Ashifa, thank you for joining us tonight. How are you feeling?
Hi. Yes, I'm doing good. Thank you for actually inviting me for the forum today, faculty.
Ah, it's our pleasure. All right, next up we have Miss Siti Nasuha, also a proud English for Intercultural Communication alumni who continues to stand out as an executive at Talent Corporation Malaysia Berhad. She has a wide range of experiences under her belt, ranging from managing programs, excelling in communication with peers and higher ups, all the way to leading the digital volunteer program while undergoing practical training with Talent Corp. Hello, Miss Nasuha. How are you doing?
Hi, Aina. Thank you. I'm very excited to meet all of you and can't wait to share my at least a bit lah knowledge. I hope. Thank you.
Glad to hear that. And last but not least, we have Miss Dalila Tajudin, a proud holder of a degree in mass communication, who is currently acting as the assistant manager of Talent Corporation Berhad. She has an outstanding performance in her field, including being the presenter of the Future of Work Strategies Toolkit Flexible Work Arrangements. Miss Dalila is surely in her prime with more than 13 years of experience in events, corporate communication, public policy, and government relations. Welcome, Miss Dalila. How are you feeling?
Wow, thank you for extensive welcome. That was a huge, I would say like that was like a mouthful that when you say it out loud. Thank you again for UITM, my alumni and also my alma mater. Thank you again, guys, for inviting me to be part of this session. I can't wait to have a very wonderful night together with you guys. Thank you, moderator.
All right, that's very nice to hear. And now that we are introduced to our panel, I would like to highlight that each panel will be given a turn to answer each question in tonight's forum, where I will be prompting every panel to answer each question. And with that, is everyone ready? All right. All right. Okay. If so, let's begin our session. Okay. For our first question of the night, as we all know, Malaysia is a very diverse country. And what do you think of the current situation of cultural awareness and mindfulness in Malaysia's workplace setting? Would you say Malaysians are culturally more sensitive these days? We'll begin with Miss Ashifa.
All right. Thank you for the prompts. Okay. So when you ask me about is Malaysia becoming more culturally aware or whether they are more mindfulness, personally, as I have experienced myself back in my time in Nestle and also in Lazada right now, I would say that they are very much aware, especially because previously we were in Ramadan, right? So these people actually they make sure not to eat in front of me because all of my teammates are Chinese. So they actually took the effort to not eat in front of me, although it's fine. So I would say that despite what people might have said about how Malaysians are not culturally sensitive and all that, I believe myself because I've experienced it, they are actually more, at least more culturally sensitive than it was before. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that, Miss Ashifa. Next, we'll be moving to Miss Dalila.
Okay. All right. So in terms of that question, right, I would say that it has been quite a journey, ranging from different types of people that I meet throughout my career, right? But in the end of the day, I would say that regardless of any race or culture, whatever, can you are accustomed to who you are in the beginning of the day. So you are a human first, then you come to accustomed to the diversity wheel, as well as being a gender, and then being the race, age, the place you were born, the number of adik-beradik you are at, and then that's the cycle. But in terms of working or maybe accustomed to people that I meet in my career, I would say that it has been ranges of people that we can share later on in terms of experience, but altogether I would say it has been quite a journey in a way that I can share later on even within the other questions. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dalila. Looking forward to that. And last but not least, Ms. Nasuha.
Basically, I agree with both of our panel here. Like, I do think that the cultural awareness and mindfulness is there now. It's not the textbooks like stereotyping and things. I don't think it's ever happened in front of me. So I do agree with both of their point that we are human first before the race.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nasuha. I fully agree with what Ms. Dalila said about us being human first. And yes, I do agree as well that Malaysians currently are now more aware and they are more culturally sensitive nowadays. Right. And in terms of beliefs, norms, values, and attitudes, each culture possesses its own intrinsic concepts. So, what are some unique cultural differences you have encountered at your workplace? We'll begin with Miss Dalila this time.
Wow. Okay. You're really putting me on the spotlight. Okay. So basically, in terms of belief, norms, values, and attitude, oh, that's a mouthful. Each culture possesses its own intrinsic concept, right? So that's the question about belief and norms. So I will go back to the diversity wheel that I was talking about earlier, right? So when we are born, Allah created us as human beings. He created us as human beings first. Then only He created us in terms of gender. And then we are alhamdulillah rezeki, we are born Muslim and etc. and all that. So that is the first layer of diversity actually. So when we are accustomed to what we believe in terms of normalities or whatever cultural differences whatsoever, in the end of the day, we have to look into ourselves saying that I am a human being first. So I do not have the liberty to judge or even to talk about other people's norms or beliefs in terms of what I only believe. So that is the point of view when I talk about in terms of accepting other people's differences at a point of view in this as a human beings first lah. Kita cakap pasal kita as a manusia first, and then baru kita akan cerita in terms of how we look forward in the terms of the workforce, how we are accustomed to our friends, playing different persona of hats, a student, a daughter, and etc. So in my opinion, when we talk about unique cultural differences, right? I would say that I accept people's differences, or because there's a study that's done by Deloitte in 2020. They spoke about how an organization rose up their revenue by 3 times more than the year before that because they hired more diverse people. We're talking about diverse in race, diverse in thinking, diverse in terms of inclusivity, and also their thinking thoughts. So I'll leave that question hanging, and then I can get my other panelists to add into that question.
All right, thanks, Ms. Dalila. What an amazing way to describe the importance of respecting other people's perspective and differences. Yes. And what about you, Ms. Nasuha?
I was hoping you to pass the baton to Asyifa, but because it's Dalila is too powerful. So in terms of like different culture, belief and things, I would say that if you were to compare between the Malaysian, the multicultural in Malaysian, I would say that we are pretty much accustomed to the others' culture. Like we celebrate the same, like their holiday is our holiday is their holiday as well. So we celebrate everything. And I do think that we are very much um have been served of their, like we know of their culture. Like Shifa would say, during Ramadan, everyone knows about Ramadan. If you ask the Chinese, Malaysian Chinese, Indian Chinese, everyone knows they have been in Ramadan month with us, alongside of us. Can so I would say that just we are more open to differences. Like if we were to see someone say, oh, I don't have the same faith as you, I'm not a Muslim. So, oh, okay, that's fine. Why? Maybe we can talk a bit about the religion, but we don't have that stereotyping, or we don't pointing fingers. So I think it's a good things about us being living a multicultural setting for a long time. So I would say, if you were um to be successful, I would say you have to open to differences. You have to be open, like you don't have to be so like uh oh, you are different than me, then we cannot be friends. No, but most of us is open to differences. So um I don't have any like culture yang very unique macam, oh, I tak pernah dengar pun, tak ada. So sebab we have been in the know with them. So sebab now mostly I don't have any other nationality. Maybe from the MNC point of view, like Nestle or something that have other nationality, will have more to talk about, kan. So now I pass the ball to Asyifa.
Also, you using my background in internship to pass the next one to me. Yeah. Okay lah. Can lah. But yeah, in terms of like uniqueness, our own culture, all that yada yada, just like what Dalila said earlier, the uniqueness and the diversity in one's company doesn't matter what kind of company, whether it's MNC, GLC, whatever. One, of course, they attract like people to, how is it? They attract consumers to actually buy from them and all that. It's not just in terms of profit and how do I say this? It's not just how this company actually able to attract a lot of people to actually pay attention to their company. It's also how this culture are able to actually associate themselves with this company. And also with all of these various culture in one's company, I can say that it merges beautifully into a whole new culture itself. Like let's say if one's company have like Chinese, Indian, Malaysia, which is most companies in Malaysia do, it actually created a whole new environment for us. Like it's just a very harmonious, very peaceful, very understanding environment that of course a lot of people want to live in. And like Nasuha said, Ramadan, and like Dalila said, we ourselves are human first. Our genders, our races, our age even comes next. So be it whatever culture we come in, all those are actually looked at last. That's for me. Yeah. So I pass back the baton to our moderator. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Miss Nasuha and Miss Ashifa. First, I would agree with Miss Nasuha for saying that we have been exposed to a lot of cultures from the start, and that's the main point of our forum tonight, right? Celebrate diversity and be open to differences. And with Miss Ashifa, I agree with what you said about the assimilation of many cultures, bringing birth to a new environment, which is essentially like a whole boiling pot of cultures, right? And it is for us, it is also vital for us to adapt to their cultures as well. All right. And talking about, meeting people of different cultures, have you had any unpleasant experiences maybe at the workplace? Perhaps a first-hand racism experience, or maybe you have heard people stereotyping others. And we'll begin with Miss Nasuha this time.
That's a very specific question, and I would say I agree with the question. Let's ask D.
She likes to do this. Oh my God. Okay, I understand this is the elephant in the room question. I totally get it. Coming from UITM, where we have Bumi Putras, around 27 or 26 ethnicity coming together in one university. Unfortunately, for us in this alumni or in this space, we miss out the opportunity actually to be part of a more diverse culture where we are accustomed to the workplace. Fret not, it's okay, tak apa you guys, no worries, kita akan prep you guys awal-awal, so it's okay. So I mean to tell you that in the end of the day, you must always remember what is your intention when you approach a person or when you judge a person. Regardless of what skin color, what are their beliefs. If you want to help that person, that is your pure intention. So hati kena murni sikit lah. Janganlah macam shot sendiri, semua nak sendiri je kan. Mana boleh. You know, setiap rezeki kita ada rezeki orang lain. So it means to say that it's a missed opportunity, the fact that we are unable to even look into a different culture while we are in our university prime years. But once we enter the workforce, if you can see, human beings are still human beings. They still have that perangai. Macam mana sekalipun you cannot, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So to curb racism or to have experience with racism, what should you do is take a step back. If you face this kind of situation, you take a step back and then you ask yourself the first question, what is my intention if I go into this fight, contohnya, with a person with a different culture or whatever. So from there, you were able to see that, okay, this is not something that I want to confront. Let's have a clear communication instead of to resolve a conflict communication. So that's the keyword over there. So I will pass it to Shifa. Obviously, she has more experience in terms of people.
I hope I do, because I've only been working for like 6 months here, so I hope it's enough. But yeah, in terms of like unpleasant experiences and whatnot, it's not that the experience is unpleasant. It's just that you yourself, because as I said before, all of my team members, not all, if not most, are mostly Chinese. So it's just a simple situation, going out to lunch. Okay, so it's just a simple situation going out to lunch. But as the only Malay there, because we're currently working on a hybrid basis, even though I have some Malay team members and Indian, we do not come to the office on the same day. So when I ask for these team members for lunch, usually their go-to place is a non-halal food court, which is, for me, is a problem because of course I could not eat non-halal food. But when I said that I wanted to join them, they will automatically change their places to eat because they respect my culture. But for me, of course, I feel kind of bad because they changed their plans just to accustom to myself. So it's not like an unpleasant experience on their end. On my end, it's just that I feel bad. So those are the kind of things yang orang kata hati kena getar lah. Bukan sebab you kena stereotype ke apa. It's just that it's a different culture. They know how you are, and we also know how they are. You just need to know that sometimes it's okay to feel that way. You don't have to rasa kecil hati just because they change their plans for you. But try to find some Malay friends lah, because right now I definitely need some Malay friends in the company because I'm mostly just do my work in my workspace and work area. But I have a lot other experiences if people wanted to listen. Do you guys want to listen? Go for it. Okay, great. Okay, there was this one situation because I am a very small person and my workspace is usually I chose to sit at a very corner yang memang orang tak tahu punya place. So in our room, because we have a special room for my team, sometimes they have like a mini organizational class in which they teach the organization of the department in our in our company. So at one point, my manager was actually teaching our new hires of the organizational structure. They didn't know I was there because I was so in the corner. So they speak Chinese. And then after a while, I actually said like, hey, I'm here. So upon hearing that, hey, I'm here, they actually switched back to Malay. So that's the beauty of living in a multicultural environment, because they actually respect us as much as we respect them. So like I said, it's not much of an unpleasant experience. It's just that you feel bad because you're in a group of people who are of the same culture. When they are together, of course, they prioritize their own culture. But when they know there are someone outside of the culture in the team or in the group, they automatically change it. And that's the beauty of, I guess, my team, and also the beauty of Malaysia itself. So yeah, I had those experiences suffice to actually, give some insight of how it can actually be in a multicultural environment.
It does. Thank you very much for that story. Looking at the bright side, if once we take a step back to observe the whole situation, it's essentially a give and take experience where we can also learn to tolerate and embrace our own feelings, while also, it teaches us a sense of being, conscious of other people's feelings as well. And also back to what Ms. Dalila explained earlier, is that we must always remember our intentions when meeting someone in the first place, and that we should not immediately judge a book by its cover. And also recalling back on what she explained on how to exactly deal with these unpleasant experience is to take a step back and take a reflection on the situation as a whole, right? Okay, and maybe we can move back to Miss Nasuha if you would like to answer the question, if you have had first-hand racism experience, or maybe you have heard like stereotyping others.
I pass, come back to me. Yeah, I would say that I really agree with what Dalila and Asyifa had been saying, that yeah, we do. I don't really face any like very first-hand racism, but more like what Shifa is saying, like people are trying so hard to conform to our belief and think that we feel bad. We're like, no, it's okay, like not eating in front of us during Ramadan or things that it's okay. You don't have to go until that far just to make us feel comfortable, So I would say like first-hand, very straight on racism experience, I would say no. But also just to repeat back what Dalila says, if anything happens, just take a step back. I think that's the best way to handle conflict, even in any conflict, not racism only. So I think it's the best panel we have here.
Thank you, Ms. Nasuha. Yes, I'm actually very glad to hear that none of you have experienced, like severe forms of racism experiences. Okay, so with that, we'll be moving to the next question. So, interculturally speaking, what are some challenges you have faced while communicating with people of a different culture? We'll begin with Ms. Asyifa this time.
So okay, truth be told, my job scope right now requires me to basically talk to people outside of my culture. Like I can literally count with one hand how many Malays that I come across. Why? Because my actual role focuses more on regional team. So I mostly interacted with Singaporeans, Chinese from mainland China, Indians, Koreans, and all that. So I guess how can I say this? The challenges would be mostly on language side, because not all of them are as, I would say, as
Fluent?
yes, as fluent in English as most of us in Malaysia. So when I call them up, usually would be like itik dengan ayam cuba nak cakap most of the time, especially because I cannot speak Chinese kan. So most of the time what I did was I would ask for my team member, and they would gladly help because they know how much it would impact one, myself, and second, our whole company. But most of the time there's not really much challenges in terms of interculturally speaking. It's just the language barrier that exists between cultures. That is all. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Ashifa. Yes, that's true because language is and currently is one of the main barriers that one always faces in intercultural communication. And it's quite ironic, the fact that I'm currently learning intercultural communication, where I will be facing barriers with language as well. All right, moving on, we'll move to Miss Nasuha for the question.
Thank you, moderator. I would say that yeah, the main part of communicating is language. So tambah-tambah sekarang masa pandemic, like everything go virtual, everything go phone call. I cannot understand what they're saying if that they talk too fast or with some accents. No judging, but you know, if someone talk fast, like it will be hard for us. So sometimes I would prefer to have this like video conference type of thing, like video call. I would like, oh, just let me just call you on Teams, or like, oh, just maybe we can written this down or things like to make it clearer lah for us. But and then maybe I don't know, when I speak to other culture, I will like some days I will have my cannot bahasa Inggeris day. Macam, oh tak boleh lah bahasa Inggeris hari ni, tak boleh fikir. So it was like, okay, dia akan jadi macam, oh saya tak nak communicate lah dengan dia because I don't want to use English. But that's me lah, my challenges lah. So you know, you have to be considerate lah, because if they don't understand Malay, so English is the only way. And then if they don't understand English, so body language lah all the way. Yeah. So that's the small challenges that I face.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nasuha. Yes, I do agree that good communication helps create better understanding, even if we have to go to the length of expressing ourselves in body language. And what about Miss Dalila? Have you faced any challenges?
Well, being in terms of challenges, interculturally speaking, we're in Malaysia, right? So if ada tak boleh cakap bahasa Melayu, cakap English. If ada tak boleh cakap English, kena cakap bahasa Melayu, whether you like it or not. So I do admit sometimes communication can be the biggest challenges when you are trying to get your ideas to be heard. Okay, that's one. However, the approach from another person's point of view can also be taken into consideration. There's always Google Translate. There's always software translation that you can able to use. Come on, you guys traveled overseas, obviously. Siapa yang tak pernah pergi Korea ataupun pergi all these different countries, lies, okay? All right, so basically that's why technology exists. Technology is there to assist us on a daily basis to make our life much more easier and much more cooperative in a way. It has significantly changed how we work and etc. In terms of speaking about challenges, talking to a different culture and all that, I always think that the best way is not only your way, the best way is also a collaborative way. So however you feel that when you are trying to communicate to that person, keep on learning to understand the other party, what they want to think about, what are they trying to say about. Again, conflict communication is clear communication. Conflict resolving is clear conflict, clearing up the air. So how do you clear up the air? Contohnya lah, you gaduh dengan boyfriend you, kan? I like to use the example that you gaduh dengan boyfriend you. You just ada je benda tak betul, kan? Tapi eventually you guys will sit down together and actually try to understand the other party's point of view. Even though you tahu, oh, you salah, you tu tak salah. You know, kita perempuan, dia salah, dia tak salah. Tapi tak. But you know, to be a more matured person, when you want to talk about interculturally, you have also to be the bigger person. how do you become the bigger person is by also understanding and try to understand the other person's approach. Buat sekali tak jadi, buat dua kali tak jadi, buat kali ketiga tak jadi juga, pergi mandi bunga sekejap lah, tapi tak. So means that keep on trying regardless of how you try, because in the end of the day, you will be frustrated if you're not being heard, the other person will be frustrated because they can't understand you. So how do you resolve that? So yeah, that's my point of view.
Thank you, Ms. Dalila. And going back to what you said, like the wonders of technology, right? So we can rely on the gadgets that we have, but we should also take consideration of others, as there's always room for improvement for us to understand the other parties as well as to solve conflicts between one another. Okay, so for the next question, we know that while working in a team, there will be disagreements and disputes, even in a monocultural setting. So has this affected your work so far? And how exactly did you solve it when it involves several people, especially from several different cultures with several different perspectives? So we'll begin with Ms. Asyifa.
I think I prefer to go last this time. Let's give it to Miss Nasuha first. Let's see what she says. Yeah.
I take one for the team lah. So yes, I do think that disputes happens, that everyone cannot tipu lah. You haven't have a disagreement in your life. Of course, people will disagree with you. And I would say that, like your upbringing, your values will change the way you think, your ideas and things like that. So sometimes you cannot be too, like too hard on your perspective, like this is my way or the highway. Cannot. If you are working in teams, the best perspective to have like different upbringing, even in monoculture, that people grow up differently. Like I'm from another state, there's one is from another state, maybe not so stark differences, but there may be some difference from their values. So you would have the different ideas, you would have different things. So the first thing that you should do is take a step back and be open to differences. Like, okay, I can see why you are coming that way. Can you, like, if you cannot understand his or her point of view, you can just, can you like elaborate more on that? I want to see why you are saying that is the best ways for us to do, to continue this program, for example. So why you are suggesting that? I cannot see that. So the clear communication, I would say clear communication, even for different culture, I would say that put some, if you are suggesting things and people don't agree with you, you have to like back up, like with why you are saying that, what your point of view is, because honestly, people cannot read your mind. So you cannot accept that, oh, you have to do this without explaining things. So this goes both ways lah, I would say.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Nasuha. I totally agree with you about how, we cannot read minds. A lot of people tend to overlook that very common, but, very always overlooks fact. And that, to recall back what you said, we have to take a step back or probably give in and try our best to truly understand each other's perceptions to truly reach a middle point, right? Okay, so thank you, Ms. Nasuha. How about you, Ms. Dalila?
Agak dah mesti ada yang kena lepas ni. Okay, so yeah, talking about challenges and how do we overcome, right? So I like to recall what Nasuha mentioned, communication, approach, and all that. Those are very important parts. But in the end of the day, you tanyalah diri you sendiri, you ada effort ke tak ada effort? Okay, udah TikTok tu pakai effort. I memang tak boleh. I'm so sorry, I just cannot. I macam, but confident tu penting. So let me tell you, effort counts. Every little milestone you make every day counts. So keep on doing it. Like I said just now, satu kali tak boleh tak jadi, dua kali tak jadi, 3 kali tak jadi. Keep on trying sampai jadi, confirm boleh jadi. But in the same time as well, overcoming it also means that you also need to also think about how long can I try and not try anymore. So there's a saying kan, if you fail to try, you fail, right? Something like that, right? So that's the saying actually. At first I tak faham tau the proverb. And then lama-lama when I baca, oh, now I understand. If you don't try first, you automatically fail. But if you already try but you fail, but it's okay because you already tried. So have a thought about that. Do you actually really try? Or you malas? That's another word. Or you malas. Or you just think that my way is just the best way. So challenges can go into addressing challenges that you face daily basis in terms of communication, in terms of getting people to be part or to understand what you are thinking, is something that is really not up to you. So you repair diri you sendiri. You jangan repair orang lain, you repair diri you sendiri. So you think about, how do I make myself better, or how do I overcome my challenges better so that I can excel. So I like to talk about as well in terms of how you also need to set what you want. So when you talk about, when you talk about people, relationships, in this context, communication and all that, kan? Your words is against other people's words. However, you can always meet halfway, but how do you meet halfway? So that is the challenging part in terms of addressing multicultural and also the differences that you have regardless within your peers. Never cakap just about culture in racism, about Melayu, Cina, India lah. We talk about just within your circle pun you can see the cultural differences already. Again, back to my diversity wheel. I suka diversity wheel ni actually. So macam the first level is about race, it's about age and all that. The second level is about anak you nombor berapa, apa hobi you, what's your favorite brand. Those are, and then we go back jauh. And the latest diversity wheel that I like to add on is that we live through the pandemic era. So our mindset and our generation went through everything lah basically. So in organization, in the workforce, we are currently facing with 4 multi-generational workforce. Your baby boomers, your Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, and Gen Z. Different people, different generations have different needs. Your needs might be different from my needs. But how do we address the needs in order to achieve what we want in the end of the day? Completion of a project, for instance. But how do we meet halfway? Because the goal is there. So it's up to you lah whether you want to tarik which tali, the left or the right side. Okay, I'll leave it to that and get Shifa to talk about it more.
Okay, she really gives a lot of, I would say, a lot of analogy on this, which of course we all cannot lawan lah because she's a person with a lot of experiences. Kalau nak banding I dengan Nasuha, we're basically like very new, we're just newbies lah. Betul lah tu, pengalaman sekecil banyak ni je. And like Dalila said before, when it comes to having any dispute or any challenges or any kind of miscommunication, this does not just rooted because of your culture or your races. This happens anytime, even within our circles. But how do I say this? Speaking from a newbie point of view, like a person who just joined the workforce, and in a company in which I would say a company that does not care about organization hierarchy, and also a very straightforward company in terms of the people that are very straightforward. So when I talk about the challenges, usually the challenges is within myself. Why I said that? Because like I said before, as a newbie, we don't really have much work to do. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to do it. So when it comes to challenges, it would be, alamak, aku tak ada kerja, aku nak buat apa ni? Alamak, aku nak buat macam mana? Benda-benda ni, aku nak buat dekat mana? So how do I overcome those challenges is just ask around. This is sama juga dengan internship pun, newbie internship, any kind of culture pun, any challenges yourself ke, any dispute with your team members, waktu discussion ke, ask around, don't be afraid to speak up. That is all. So kalau macam you feel like you're not good enough to speak, then speak up je. They know where you're coming from. They know why they hire you for that team. So whatever you like it, just cakap, and whatever happens next happens. It's just that you need to be respectful. Going back to looking back at yourself, you need to be respectful always. Check diri sendiri balik. Patut ke tak aku cakap benda-benda tu? So it's just like that. It's just as simple as looking back at yourself. Do not be afraid to speak up and be respectful. That is all. There's not really that much of a, I would say, cultural issues. It's just an issue with yourself and the issue with people's, I would say, attitude around you. So yes, respect is important no matter in what culture. That is all.
Thank you, Miss Dalila and Miss Asyifa. I agree with what you said about, being respectful and having respect is one of the most vital components in when you communicate, not just to people of other cultures, but just people in general. And previously on what you said, Miss Dalila, it's very simple but very meaningful. So, like in a workplace that celebrates diversity, effort and communication goes hand in hand. And also, I agree with what you say when you say that we need to strive in overcoming challenges, as popular words. They say to shoot for the stars, and if you miss, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you still land among the stars. And I believe we can apply for that concept too in our discussion tonight. And yes, Ms. Ashifa, I agree as well that in the end, it is all up to us. It is up to us to take initiative, and if we fail, we can always learn from what we did wrong. And it is also very important for us to always be respectful, but at the same time, we should not be afraid to speak up for ourselves. Right. Okay. And moving on to our next question. So, as your ITM graduates who had little chance to mingle with people of different cultures, what does it feel like to meet people of other cultures at workplace? Did you have any trouble adapting to the new surroundings when you first started? So we'll begin with Miss Ashifa this time.
Okay, boleh lah. I wouldn't say that it came as quite a surprise for me because I kind of grew up with Chinese, so it's not like a new thing to me. But then, of course, when you are actually surrounded by people of other culture, like at least for 8 hours a day, for like 5 days a week, of course, it came out as something. At first, it was quite surprising, like how they work, how they talk, because sometimes their intonation can be a little bit garang and all that. But after a while, you get used to it. Yeah, after a while, you just get used to it, and it's just that. How do I say this? It's like you're just going out to the mall. Macam tu je. It's not really. It doesn't really came out as something surprising, but it is definitely something new. Yeah.
All right. Right. Thank you, Ms. Ashifa. Yes, I do agree with, even if we did not have any, lot of experience in mingling with people of other cultures during our university years, we still have the opportunity to mingle around outside of our university, right? Right. Okay. So moving on to Miss Nasuha. Did you have any trouble adapting to new surroundings?
I would say, yes, as UiTM graduate, but I think LG243 prepare me. Dia macam kan, because I was, you are very lucky to, I tak adalah kata yang lain tak okay, tak adalah, just macam LG243 English for Interculture ni, like we learn a lot about the English around the world, English, so we are more open to differences. That kind of mindset, that kind of, when you go somewhere new, you have to have the mindset that you don't stereotype this, you don't, because that will reflect on you on your face, on how you interact with others. If you go somewhere else with the mindset that, oh, this race will be like this, this race will be like this. So when you met them in the workplace, you will be like, you know, you have that kind of impression, that kind of stereotyping that I don't think LG243 students have that. Because, you know, even in our first sem, we learn, I don't know about you guys, but in my first sem with Shifa, we learn about English around the world, how different culture, their first language will shape how they talk in English, Manglish, English and things. So we don't actually judge people based on that or their appearance, because we're like, oh, that's just different culture doing their thing. And then we just come here, somehow we are the one that knew in that workplace. So, you know, like Shifa said, ask around, be open to others' differences and things. So I don't really face that new surrounding like, oh, very different, very, no, it just be open lah, I would say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Saha. I do agree, you know, not to just toot my own flute, but you know, with the fact that our course prepares us with all these new information regarding different cultures, you know, we are still able to learn about other cultures, even if we do not have close proximity with people of other cultures. Right. And last but not least, Miss Dalila.
I would like to tell you guys a story about how we are so accustomed of living in Malaysia, kan? You know, the Malaysia way of mingling around people and the Malaysian way. Biasalah tu, mesti orang ni, orang ni, orang ni. Oh, mestilah tu, mesti orang Malaysia. You generalize people just by the face and also the race that they are. Have you ever had a thought that somehow, you know, when they talk about differences or, you know, in especially being in UiTM itself, that you guys are, I would say not you guys are, we lah, okay? I cakap diri I sendiri as well as an alumni of UiTM, right? When we don't know things, we are afraid of it. So that's why we keep ourselves within the same circle like the people that we are. So during my UiTM days back then, so I was in mass communications. Tu dekat atas puncak, dekat atas gunung tinggi tu, bukit tinggi tu, orang panggil bukit apa? So, tangga kejayaan tu. Oh my god, so dreadful. Okay, so I was one of the black sheep in my own course. You know, so basically, in a way that I was not the model student. I was not even the model campus or even the faculty student. But however, I do not let my personality or my persona define what is my value. So the word here is define. Does your race define who you are? So if you take out the Malay out of you, who you are, so what are you left with? So those things you need to really understand yourself first in order for you to not accidentally misunderstood other people or other races. You can always be kind to anybody else. For instance, you pergi supermarket, ada auntie ni tolak trolley you marah. You buat apa? The first reaction of human being will be like, kenapa ni? Macam tu. But as a person who is very self-aware or aware, you will say that, oh, sorry, kata, are you okay? You know, you take the first step. If you become the bigger person, you will not have differences in terms of addressing ataupun macam getting the chance to not able to understand other people. Just because you are having a bad day or that person yang langgar trolley itu having a bad day doesn't mean you have to add on to their bad days. You change their mindset. You change it with your personality, you change it with your persona, you change with your act of kindness. That way, automatically, the other person will be like, oh, okay, sorry. The other person pula yang akan cakap sorry dekat you. Padahal dia dah marah dulu ni, dia yang langgar you ni. Dia dah pandang you macam menjegi mata macam tu kan. Tapi, if you take the first initiative, if you take the first step, eventually people will open up to you and they will forget your skin color. They will forget that you're wearing tudung dark scarf. They will forget that you are, that you are actually different from them. So yeah, so I will leave it. I will leave it there, and then we can move on to a different question, a different answer after this.
Thank you, Miss Dalila. I really love how selectkan all these wonderful and easy to understand analogies for all of us to understand. And yes, I do agree with the fact that generalization and stereotyping are definitely not the best ways for us to learn different cultures of people, coming from different races. And regardless of ethnic and races, you can still be kind and be the bigger person towards everyone. And as you said, we lose nothing by being nice. All right. So moving on to the next question. Have you accidentally offended or misunderstood anyone from different culture? So we'll begin with Miss Nasuha.
Dia bila dia dah we will begin with tu semua dah macam dia sebut apa. Okay, accidentally offended Alhamdulillah for now, for this newbie punya experience belum lagi, Alhamdulillah. I try to not accidentally do that. I hope I can avoid that lah. Misunderstood and things like what the Shifa says. What do you think?
Okay. How would I say this? I don't think I have offended anybody in terms of in my way of speaking or maybe my body language, but my role does offend a lot of people because I reject people when I was hiring because I'm in recruitment. So I offend them in that way, but I think never so far in terms like maybe my spoken language, in terms of my body language. I don't think I have ever done that, or that I know of. So far, not yet. Because I know along the way I will offend someone. It's just that maybe I don't know about it. Yeah. Dalila, on you?
Okay, because of my wide and ranges of experience, I did actually offended and misunderstood somebody from a different culture. Back then, I thought that person is okay with racist jokes. When you work, sometimes you have racist jokes and everything, and some people will not take it seriously, because I will kutuk my own race man any time of the day. I will say, if I can change something, I will change something that can, that doesn't define me just because I'm Malay. I will do that. However, some other people are very gated or very accustomed to what they believe because they are being brought that way. So back then, I didn't understand what is this. Kenapa you macam offended sangat? I'm just talking about it in terms of experience. But then I look back into it that sometimes sometimes when you are too open to something that it doesn't feel that you are heavy on you, it is heavy on somebody else and is important to somebody else. So we cleared the air and said, I'm sorry, I will not do such jokes anymore or talk about it anymore. We can leave all those out of the way. But it's not that I want to offend you or whatever. It's just something that slipped out of my mind. I'd be extra cautious about it. Accountability is very important if you are talking about offending somebody. You jangan always act as a victim. When you, especially in this sensitive multicultural or culture or even race or whatever, okay, you cannot always be the victim. And you cannot always say that, oh, but I didn't know. You're supposed to know because you are talking to a different person or a different race. So in a way, we have to also think that be the bigger person, take the accountability. Sorry, it will not happen again. Then hopefully we can move on from that. Mestilah ada time-time panas-panas sikit suam-suam. Lama-lama they will open up back. Things will get better. Trust the process. Orang kata, time will heal things. I still don't get it, but yeah, okay. So, in your experience, when you go out to the workforce, when you meet different people, if you get a chance to meet different people different from you, try not to be picky ataupun reflect on one thing that person would that culture ataupun that person is really really being generalized as. I hope you guys understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so try to refrain talking about that particular thing. You can always talk about something else. You can talk about, Instagram ke, you can talk about the new TikTok dance ke, you can talk about things that happen on Twitter ke. It doesn't have to be talking about a thing that is very sensitive. What you can do is that if you're curious gila-gila nak tahu kenapa benda tu terjadi dekat that certain race atau that certain culture kan, you can really ask it nicely. You can always put it in a way that I really, really want to know. I hope it's okay. You can always say that because you are not there to judge, but you are there to just understanding the other person's culture. And you'll be quite amazed that that person will be able to open up, and they will even cerita. I also don't agree on that. That in the end of the day, they'll be saying that, like that lah, what to do lah, uncle, auntie, like that lah, but at least kita faham, oh like that ke, okay lah, like that, and then we can move on from there. It's okay that, I will say that it's okay that if you want to talk about general things or what's in the news or whatever kan, tapi refrain it from not talking so much about a person's background or anything, because eventually it will be offended. Tak banyak mungkin sikit, mungkin akan ada terasa. Setelah tu manusia kan, sometimes kalau kawan I pun, I tegur, apa tudung you tak gosok jadi, padahal member dah gosok dah tudung dia, tapi because you nampak satu crease kan, lepas tu dia sentap. So macam, it happens. You will never know, sometimes hati orang tisu, hati kita tak. So it's like that. So just be cautious. Just tengoklah di air macam mana. Kalau orang tu, that person is like, okay, let's talk and everything, then it's okay. But if that person is a very uptight person and everything, take some time to get to know the person better. All right? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Dalila. And thank you for the remarkable answer, dear panel. So misunderstanding is quite common between people from different cultures, and sometimes we may want to talk about a certain topic out of curiosity, but we must always be conscious of how we approach things. And I also believe that maybe because of the fact that we tend to be more careful in communicating with people from different cultures, thus we are very conscious and particular in choosing our words and actions. And as you mentioned, Ms. Dalila, if we make any mistakes, we should not be defensive about it, and instead we should take accountability of it and apologize. All right. So speaking from your own experiences so far, what are the pros of having a culturally diverse workplace setting? We'll begin with Ms. Dalila this time.
Okay, so my team consists of One Malaysia. So we have all the One Malaysia punya race and culture and all that. So one of my colleagues, that person, I don't want to say he or she, I said that person. Nampak I pakai pronoun yang very general. That person. So basically, that person is the type like, the person is the type that have very, proper way of doing and organization things. So I tanya lah, kenapa you buat things like this? Oh, sebab ayah dah diajar daripada kecil buat benda ni macam ni. So it means that I'm also learning something from that person. So as a superior or as somebody who is higher than the other person, you must also put on a thinking hat ataupun put on the hat of I'm also learning from the other person. Like today itself, right? I'm also learning from the point of view of Generation Z, Asyifa and Nasuha, how they are talking about, they just entered the workforce in 6 months' time, and Nasuha is been in talent corp, they don't know what to do when they come to work. Padahal I masuk office busy gila ni, like macam, I have so much things to do already, right? Now I understand from the point of view of a different generation saying that we are awkward in a workplace because we don't know what to do. So I'm learning something also today. It's not just about, bagi tahu, oh apalah Dalila ni asyik baby, no. It's more about having the conversation two-way or having the learning in a two-way kind of thing. So I learn from you and you learn from me, and then we find the best way, because in the end of the day, the goal is to siapkan kerja. So I nak balik awal. Okay, that's the end goal. So daripada you impose that person to do it your way, you understand the person's way first, then only you say, maybe if you do this, it can be a bit of shortcut. Then if that person say, okay, maybe I can try it, then you dah resolve dah satu issue dekat situ, and then you can just, okay, move on. It's like adjusting to having a different team member from a different background, and also culturally different diverse background. But it doesn't stop me from not teaching ataupun not sharing. Intentions must be there. You nak help the person ke tak. If you saw or you see your colleagues, even your teammate, is struggling, tapi disebabkan dia tak like gambar you malam tadi kat Instagram, so you tak nak tolong dia. So what is it you're really intentional about? Because people rezeki sentiasa ada. Kalau dah memang Allah SWT is for you, is for you. So why do you need to be afraid of if you don't want to share? Setiap rezeki you ada rezeki orang lain. So sama je konsep dia. It will go back to that. Okay, that's for me.
Thank you, Ms. Dalila. So one of the pros that we have learned tonight is that we are able to learn and explore new things from the colleagues, as there might even be room for us to improve ourselves too. As there is not one correct way of doing things, and thus learning new things from other people can even open our eyes towards new ways of doing things. All right, so moving on to Miss Asyifa, what about you?
What about me? Like Dalila said, in terms of she mentioning things about her generation and our generation doing things in such a different ways, that actually happens in my team as well. Because in my team, our manager is, I wouldn't say she's old, but she's in the 40s. She's in her 40s. So our team members basically consisted of millennials and Gen Zs. So she said that since we all joined the team, a lot of things has changed, and she has actually learned a lot, not just in terms of how we do work, not just that. She also learned a lot of slangs, like cakap macam budak-budak sekarang. So those are one of the things that she said. Like, she's thankful because we are there in the team, because she can connect with the doctor more. And that's one of the, I would say, pros of having a diversity in your team. Another would be for every perayaan, not just we have cuti, my team members will always get us hadiah as well. So let's say when it's Chinese New Year, right, we get angpao. And then when it's Christmas, we get Christmas gift. And vice versa. When it's Raya, we give them Duit Raya as well. So it's just that we celebrate each other to the extent of macam family. I know this can be quite a kind of red flag kalau macam, okay, we treat each other as family in this. No, we do not establish that. It's just that we really treat each other as family, but that work is work. We just celebrate each other for being there. Yeah, I guess that's just one of the ways we motivate each other to keep going, because as far as we know, work can be tough. So celebrating those differences really do make a difference, despite seeing like it's such a simple thing. Yeah. Going back to, I guess, Nasuha, or maybe to the moderator.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Asyifa. So, personally, I recalled a new thing, is that culture is not just restricted to only race, but also our difference in generations. And as you mentioned, we can always learn from others, others can learn from us too. And also we can always, there is always pros to being exposed to other cultures in our workplace as well. And last but not least, Miss Nasuha, what are some pros that you have personally experienced in your workplace?
I think they cover everything. But I agree with both of you lah. Macam yeah, diversity in terms of generation. I do respect like I'm not saying that Dalila is old, but Dalila is not macam bila kita orang macam sembang pasal TikTok and think I really respect her for staying patient with us lah. It's like, what are you guys saying? But it's okay because I think that everyone like if you just keep all the younger people, we just fly, we just like talking non-stop and just playing like I think the different generation will keep us grounded lah. And then have the I really like some people have their own way of doing, and then we newcomers are coming like, oh, we want to do it new ways. Like you cannot like full on like change that person way of doing works, but you can use that as a guideline. Yeah, maybe I would suggest that maybe we can add on like this or like that. You have to be like, you have to be a good communicator lah. Apa, get the idea across politely and things like that, because learning is two-way, the communication also goes two ways. So if you come on very hard on like, hey, you old people, you don't understand me and this thing is wrong, that is wrong with you, not the person. If that, of course lah, dia takkan terima if you say something like that kan. So respect is earned and things like that. So you have to be polite, be humble in the diverse team and things. I do agree with the pros. We have some cons, but I would say that we have more pros in having a diverse workplace lah. Someone to keep us grounded, someone to give us guideline, and someone to give a new perspective, new ways of doing what the TikTok world is doing. I will be gladly be the informer of that, and Dalila will say no, he cannot be like that. So I really appreciate everyone in my workplace lah.
Thank you, Ms. Nasuha. Yes, I agree with what you said about how a diverse culture actually helps us keep grounded. But at the same time, it can also provide us the right sense of motivation to do work, as well as it teaches us how to be a good communicator as a whole, right? And we have finally reached our last question for the forum. What are your hopes on Malaysia's cultural mindfulness in the future, especially in the workplace setting? And maybe you can also give us, students who will join the field later, some advice. We will begin with Miss Nasuha.
Angguk Dalila. My hopes on Malaysian cultural mindfulness, I don't really have any worries for you younger generation, because I think everything you have a lot more like exposure on this culture, on this ways of living. Everything is in TikTok and you guys are more aware, more mindful now. So I don't think that's the problem. I can see the mindfulness, the awareness we so high. You know more than me even, so I don't think there's any problem in that sense. But for you guys that coming into a new place, not really necessarily like different culture, it's just new place, new people, just be open to changes. Like you don't know anything. Like Shifa said, I face the same thing coming into the office, newbies and people, everyone, the senior is very like, oh, I have to do this. I said, no time to teach me, like to hand over like properly. So I have to learn it by myself. So the ways that you can do it, ask around, just ask. Oh, they say why, what, how, until you understand. So just be open to changes, be open to differences. It's never your way or highway. It's always like we can meet each other halfway, like find the common ground in everything. So I think if you do that, you're gonna like be success in life lah, better than me.
Thank you, Ms. Nasuha. So, in general, what you wish to remind us all is to be open to changes, to set a proper mindset, to always want to learn and to always ask questions, if especially if we don't understand things, and that also social media can be one of the platforms for us to be exposed to new cultures as well as TikTok, where we can explore new things. All right. So, what about you, Miss Ashifa? What would you like to part us with tonight?
Okay, so for myself, I'm not really worried on the level of mindfulness for people in my circles, my juniors, LG243, people who go to universities and all that. But my concern would be people who came from my hometown, let's say, because I actually came from a pretty rural area and a country, a state that is not exposed to this kind of stuff. Although we do live in harmony, but in a state where not a lot of people are exposed to how culture works and how sensitivity works and against culture, it can be a quite concerning thing because they do not have access as much as we do. Sure, they do have access to TikToks, Instagrams, YouTubes, and all that, but they do not have, I would say, the openness that we are exposed to. That's it. So, but it's okay. That leaves to the next generation in which to educate, but it's also our responsibilities to actually become one of the advocates, to actually expose ourselves, our maybe children, our sisters, our cousins, our little baby brothers, to actually become more culturally sensitive and more culturally aware. Start from small and not just babies as well. You can actually educate your parents, but it all depends on, whether they want you to hear it or not. But always advocate and educate. That is all. Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Ashifa. I really like that quote. Always advocate and educate. So, looking back at what you said, we can always be the first person. We can always be the bigger person in initiating change, especially in our own background. And we can always take the first step in educating and raising awareness about cultural diversity towards our own personal circle and eventually to everyone else. Right. Okay. So, last but not least, Miss Dalila.
Now I want to use Nasuha's word. I think you guys have already spoken both of the points that I want to speak about. But I just wanted to let you guys know that everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it so much. You guys are keluar nanti, you are going for your internship, whatever. These two people is gonna become your bosses. Lorang lagi teruk daripada I, trust me. No lah. I'm just saying that open your mind, open your mind, and don't be afraid to actually say what you want to say. Even though the other person or the receiving party will be that, kenapa you cakap macam tu? But at least you tak rasa macam, orang tak faham I lah. So open up. Don't come into the workplace and then be afraid to not get to know other people. Have a chat with other people. Even, even if the other person, orang kata, dia ni garang lah, dia ni susah nak kerja lah, whatever, tak tegur you kat pantry ke apa ke, it's okay. Because eventually you will come to work in an organization together. So don't be afraid. Don't go out lunch with only one person ataupun that only group of people. Go out with different kind of, different teams or different other people. You guys will be okay lah, don't worry about it so much, okay? Because in the end of the day, you know who you are, you know what defines you, you know your strength, have a reflection of yourself entirely. Take a step back whenever you feel that, am I not understanding certain things? Keep on learning, learn, unlearn, learn, unlearn. Eventually, you will get there. You'll be better, you'll be more successful than Nasuha. I am very ambitious, so yeah, I will not say that. So yeah. So don't be afraid to even say what you want. You must be able to be confidently enough to say what you want, but being respectful to other people as well. Do not stumble other people on your journey to go up. So yeah, so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Miss Dalila. Yes, I absolutely agree that we should never be afraid to open up. And let's say if we make mistakes in process, we just, own up to it and we apologize.
Yes.
Because, we will never know our true potential if we are afraid to try out on new things. Because, at the end of the day, life in whole is a learning process. Okay, thank you for your wonderful insight. So, unfortunately, we are nearing the end of our session tonight. However, before we draw the curtains, I believe we have several questions from the audiences. So,
I didn't realize there were questions as well. Is it YouTube, is it?
yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, you can give the question to Nasuha and Asyifa.
All right. Will do.
Dia tak dapat question lagi, dia dah pass baton dah
Slow sikit.
Come on, nobody wants to hear me talk. People want to hear about young people. Come on.
So, for the first question, we have a question from Sarah. Miss Ashifa, I wonder if they, your colleagues, have ever expressed their displeasure having to accommodate your lifestyle as a Muslim, and because we would feel bad. Sorry, we will feel bad. But how do they actually feel about it?
Okay, so far, they have actually never mentioned that they are not comfortable or whether they do not like it or not, because it's just that, how can I say this, they understand our culture as much as we do understand our own culture. So it's not like something new anyway. I didn't go out to lunch with them every day. It's just that on some days that I wanted to go have a lunch and have a chit chat with my team members, I joined them. That is all. So far, there have been no dissatisfied looks that I would say, is because they understand. They understand. They do not, kalau macam I nak turun pergi solat ke, I have to avoid meetings to go to solat, I have to avoid meetings, even if I have personal issues, not just because I'm a Muslim ke apa, they will allow it because they understand. Like Dalila said, we are human first. Our religion, our beliefs, it does not really changes who we are as a person or as a human. So no, it never had any dissatisfied looks or disgruntled look anymore.
All right, thank you for answering. So I'm glad to hear how understanding your colleagues are. And, back to what you said earlier, it's a two-way thing. So would we not be understanding if they did something different than us as well? So yeah, it's similar. All right, okay, thank you, Ms. Ashifa. For our next question, it is from Crispy Cookie. I would like to ask, how do you handle the anxiety when it comes to communicating with other people, especially to those of different cultures? All right, I'll be leaving the floor to the panel to decide who will be answering.
Get Nasuha to answer this question. I really want to hear from her.
Okay lah, I just give 2 simple words. Redah je. Other than that, I give back to Nasuha.
I would like to continue on that. Redah, jangan kasih pecah. Seriously, everything, new thing, apa macam unknown thing is very scary tau. Macam tiba-tiba you nampak ada seorang duduk kat situ, no matter what race lah, people duduk situ, duduk corner kecil-kecil hujung tu kan, kita macam ish, boleh kan kita cakap redah je, cakap kecilnya. Tak adalah, kita macam maybe start like building rapport ke, like if you think ahead lah, you can just say hi. If you macam tak boleh cakap anything else, just say hi, how's your day? It's just merely hi, you can you will become the familiar face. Like for me, my work, I have to work across department. Me as a newbie, I have to come in and then go to other department. Oh, I want this, I want that, you cannot do macam, you know, macam I nak approach, dah lah I nak approach dia, I nak minta kerja pula tu, I nak suruh dia bagi kat I something pula tu, takkanlah tiba-tiba I nak pergi terus macam, okay cuba bagi kat I ni, tak boleh lah. So macam, I just mula macam, oh hi, oh I'm new to this, so I have to do this and this, what do you think? Macam, you know, instead of bagi direct order, you ask question, sebab people akan tolong you, people will help you in the world that they have you created lah. Macam dia ada hands juga, dan dia ajar you buat macam ni, so dia akan lagi macam passionate nak tolong you. So you know, be humble, just rendah, tapi be humble lah.
You know, I have something I can add on that. You just have to remember when you approach people, you remember how you felt, right? That is also how they actually felt when they are about to approach you. So they have just as much as anxiety as you do. So you have to remember, people are people. They still feel the anxiety. But let's say after 2 years, 3 years in the workforce, those anxiety just changes, it becomes habit. It becomes easier after the time. So you don't have to worry much. For first timers, yes, it will be scary because it's something new, but you get used to it after a while. Yeah.
Betul, macam Dalila masuk-masuk kan, dia nampak cantik je duduk situ, muka garang, so kita pun macam takut nak approach dia. Tapi asyik tengok tiap-tiap hari, lama-lama say hi. So she become familiar and she's actually really nice lah.
Oh, thank you very much. So I would like to give some tips actually about anxiety dealing with, workplace setting and approaching. So bila you approach somebody or want to deal with anxiety, have all the questions you nak tanya that person on a piece of paper. Tak adalah nanti you pergi jumpa orang tu kata garap tanya kan, lepas tu tak ada follow up, lepas tu you pergi balik kat manager you, lepas tu manager you tanya balik, kenapa you tak tanya tadi? Don't do that. So how do you minimize, I tak nak cakap let go, cakap minimize the anxiety. First you make small talk. Hi Nasuha, good morning, how are you? And then dia akan cakap, okay, you have breakfast yet? And dia tanya, okay, you minum coffee ke? Tanya all the stupid questions first. Just ask the most basic question. Cantik lah baju you, colour you cantik, whatever lah. Dia suka buat macam tu kat I. Macam tu. Lepas tu kan lama-lama, pandai dia. Yeah, what do you want?
Kantoi.
So yeah, so basically, have all the questions you nak tanya that person, because that person's time is also valuable. Do not come to a person, dah lah you dah anxiety, then you nak tanya lagi, lepas tu nak tanya follow up question lagi. People do not have the luxury of time when you are 8 hours in the workplace. So just ask the questions that you have prepared, and if that person say, there's a lot, maybe we can talk later when I'm going for a meeting. It means that you have longer time with that person, which is tremendously a success. But if that person can answer you there and then, create the conversation going. Then that's the only way you are able to build rapport, build your confidence, minimize your anxiety. Okay, dah, tu je.
Thank you, everyone.
Dalila jawab lah, the best.
Thank you, everyone. So, malam ni kita ingat 2 phrases, advocate and educate, and redah je yang pecah. Okay? Kidding. So, to recall back on what everyone has said, we can always do our best to minimize our anxiety, not to entirely get rid of it, because, we are human. We can always do our best to control it. And as what everyone has advised, we can always start small. We can ask basic questions to, eventually get the ball rolling, so that eventually we will get familiar with everyone's faces, and lama-lama kita akan rasa macam, muka dia lagi, like that. So, but yeah, everyone can always, take initiative to control their anxiety. All right, thank you, everyone. So, moving on to our next question from Radia Auni. I was wondering, what are your opinions when it comes to racial or language bias in the workforce? How easy was it to call out the person who did it, and was action ever taken?
Okay lah, I'll answer this question lah. um, so this is another elephant in the room or another tough conversation. It's very hard to have tough conversation. So what you can do is always be respectful. If you happen to encounter when they are making racial slurs, do not call the person up there and then, because it will reflect back on you as a person. Even though you kata you nak menegakkan lah, whatever, don't do that. So what you do is that after, okay, I'm offended, basically what you said, but you call the person to the side after dah habis gelak-gelak, whatever. Can I have 2 minutes with you? By the way, you recall back what happened. I think you're not supposed to say certain things. It's offensive and it hurt my feelings. And living in a multicultural way of living, I think you need to also be respectful. I hope you can take this the right way and the correct way. It's not me attacking what you've done or pointing out what you've done. So basically, in what I said just now is that it's a respectful way of pointing out that person's what they did, but in the same time, you are not creating sparks of fire. You are actually taming the fire. And that person, it can go two ways. It's either that person be like, hey, chill lah, it was just a joke. I understand it was a joke, but I still feel that you should be careful in the future when you say certain things. People might take it offensively. No, just say out loud. So if that person be like, you tak chill lah, they kata, there are things that can be chill and there are things that we can joke around, but some things we can't joke around. Macam tu lah. So in a way, you make it a point to say it in a respectful and also authoritative way, but also taking into account that I'm just looking out for you. I'm just looking out for you. For all you know, nanti tiba-tiba when you say these kind of things, one day somebody will be like, hey, don't do that. What are you going to do? At least you remember this encounter that me as a friend or me as a colleague said that to you. And then you always have to end the conversation with, I apologize if I offended you, if I say these certain things. I'm just here to look out for you. Tapi your intentions must be very clear lah. You nak cakap salah dia ke apa ke, itu belakang cerita. Tapi your intentions when you tegur that person, is it because they offend you ke, ataupun you are looking out not for that person to not use those things in the future. So yeah, these are very tough conversations that's going to happen in some point of your life when you enter the workforce, or even when you have friends in different types, different culture and everything. So be the mature person, be the bigger person, have the conversation first. When you dah buat the conversation, then your other encounter kalau happen again, then you will not be afraid so much to call out the person. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Miss. So I assume that this also applies to, let's say, if we wish to advise some of our acquaintances or people in our circle who tend to be, let's say, culturally insensitive sometimes, without, sounding or coming off as annoying or what the teruk kind of person.
Yes. So yeah. So basically, in the other day, when you nak tegur a person, is it because you nak tegur a person because you tak suka the person ke? Or you rasa macam, oh, I need to set this context right. Siapa suruh? You suruh ke orang lain suruh? So you ask yourself, whenever you want to do anything, is it because you have values that those things not supposed to happen? Or you are only looking out for your person, the other party, your friend or probably, or your colleague? In a very serious context, you might, for instance, you might get beaten up if you say certain things in the real world. So try to have the conversation as mature as possible, as calm as possible. Humans are humans, they will react negative or positively. But if dia sedar apa dia buat, dia act positif lah. Itu je. All right.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Dalila. So essentially, being, having the right intentions and also having respect is always the main key towards efficient communication with everyone, regardless of someone's race and ethnicity. And mutual respect and understanding can always be created through good communication.
Yes, that's right.
All right. Okay. Thank you. And I believe this would be our last question from the audience. This is from Adlan Danish. So he asked, I view that new generations are more sensitive than older generations. So in the workplace, are there any conflict that involve mix of generations? Can I direct this question to Ms. Nasuha first?
Tiba-tiba kena petik kan. Any conflict, I would say like different ways of doing works lah. Because these young people, they have the different new generation have like new ways to do things, but I would say it's nice to have the basic guideline first. Like I learned a lot from how the other generation do things. So it's it's not that big of a conflict, but just some miscommunication will happen, like misunderstands. But I don't think that it will like affect your works. Macam tak ada lah macam generation, sebab generation gap tak boleh buat kerja langsung, tak ada. Mostly like when we just around, like this specific incident came to mind, like the TikTok yang you are nothing but a prostitute. We were joking around with that. We were just like, oh, no, you shouldn't say, you better say sorry. And then some people were like, you shouldn't talk to your peers like that. So we would, no, we are just joking. We are reenacting this thing. So, they just like some miscommunication here and there. But it's okay once you clear things up. You take accountability, like educate, advocate, things like that.
Thank you, Ms. Nasuha. Ms. Asyifa, maybe you would like to add anything else?
In terms of sensitivity between generations, like for me personally, people in our company generally are very young. If I'm not mistaken, the average age of people in our company is like 31 years old. So basically, it looks like just millennials and Gen Z in the workforce. But of course, even millennials and Gen Z, we have our differences. But so far, I think in terms of racial sensitivity, the medal would be for the younger generations. This is not because we are, maybe I would say, more hati tisu or anything. It's just that because we're more racially aware of this stuff, so we become more racially sensitive on the issue itself. It's not on the problem of the generation. It's just how much awareness do we have in ourselves that makes us become very sensitive of the issue. That is all. Yeah, even the older generation understand this. It's just that not all of them understands just as much as we do. That is all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ashifa. Yes, I do agree that to when people assume Gen Z as hati issue, which is like a common misconception about this generation, it is just because that we have somehow developed a more stronger sense of empathy for other people as well as us. So yeah, I agree that to develop awareness in ourselves, regardless of the age gap, we can always achieve greater understanding between one another, despite having a difference in our generation. Right. Okay. So with that, we have reached the last question from our audience. So this is for our final one. Before we end our Q&A session, do all three panels have any last advice or remarks for our audience? I'll begin with Ms. Asyifa.
Okay, for myself, if I have any final words, it would be whatever you do, whatever you think you're doing, always be mindful of what it is and be respectful always. And remember that they are also people. So whatever you're feeling, they're feeling it too. So don't be afraid and don't be scared at all. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Asyifa. And to you, Ms. Nasuha?
Yeah, I also agree with that statement that they also people, what you're feeling, they are feeling too. Like, let's humbly rendah. Rendah je, jangan kasih pecah, rendah. Just do things, but be mindful of others and be open to changes lah. I know like AG43 will do very well lah. Just mingle around, just talk to others, have networking, build your rapport, you will do great.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nasuha. And last but not least, Ms. Dalila.
So I would give the advice to younger generation or the new generation that wants to come to the workforce is spread your wings. Spread as much as you can. Do not associate yourself with only a group of people. And it's okay that you feel that you want to be comfortable at a moment of time. But when the other person is controlling, or maybe the other person in a group feels threatened or feels challenged by your capability, then you will be able to see that. Then you jadi macam besar kepala. Oh, I think I'm better than this. So don't do that. So what you can do, or what I can advise you, is that just spread your wings. Explore as much as you can. Learn as much as you can. But learning needs to also be part of execution. You cannot absorb learning every day without doing the implementation or the execution. It needs to come with results. When you say things like, oh, I need to be heard, I need to be understandable, I need to, you need to understand, I am asking questions, can you answer me? But have you ever had a thought that, oh, I'm still learning? At one point of time when you need to embrace the learning into action. Okay? So don't be afraid, spread your wings, have the ability to absorb as you can, keep on learning, learn and unlearn, do it in a practical way, churn out the learning into something greater. Okay, that will be all for me.
Thank you, Ms. Dalila. With that, we have actually arrived at the end of the session for today. Again, thank you so much to all of our panels for your delightful sharing and for your insightful sharing session, as it has definitely opened our eyes to embracing and celebrating cultural diversity, learning about ourselves and other people. And I hope that today's session will provide and help students with further guidance on what we can do to prepare ourselves before entering a culturally diverse workplace so that we can overall improve our communication with one another. The speakers may now enter the breakout room for our photography session. Thank you once again. All right, and before we end, I would like to remind all of the participants to fill in the Google form provided in the comment section for the e-certificate. Other than that, I would like to thank each and every one of you that have participated today. I would like to apologize on behalf of me and the team on any inconveniences or mistakes that occurred throughout the session. And with that, we will end tonight's forum with the UiTM di Hatiku song. I am your moderator, Aina Yasmin, signing off. Assalamualaikum.